Yeah.
Sorry, you've come in cold. I'm being mocked because the stand of my microphone is broken, so I have to hold it like doing a live cross from
You're
a natural
doing some.
disaster zone.
You're doing some stand up.
Yeah, I'm doing a bit of stand up. You know, isn't it crazy how those plastic boxes that have scissors and stuff in them are really hard to open?
Yeah.
Yeah, the plastic containers that products come in, those are really hard to open sometimes.
And sometimes they contain scissors. So isn't
Sometimes
that
they have
ironic?
scissors in them. So there is a bit of irony, I think, to that. So maybe reflect on that. And if you find it humorous, give us a chuckle.
I think that's great, mate. I think we're about to do the thing that people. I hate when I hear a podcast say this because it makes the rest of it kind of slightly ruined for me. But we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
We're not recording in person, as you may have been able to tell, because there's just something about in person that you can't capture with a Zoom call. But this
Yep.
is the second time we're doing this topic because we had a rare recording error. This was
Well, yeah,
actually a really weird one. Like, this is a computer show, so we're allowed to talk about the computers. Like, in the project, the audio was just like, this is a classic computer thing. The files were just 0 bytes. This
If you work with computers, you'll run into you'll know what we're talking about. I'm still
It
in
hasn't happened to
stand-up
me
mode.
for a long time, but I suspect I have I have a sneaking suspicion as I say this. People might be like, I think you might be onto something there, Raf. I have a sneaking suspicion it may be because the folder that we record the files to live is synced to both an iCloud and a Google Drive at once. And I wonder if that had something to do with corrupting the file that records in real time live into that folder that's also trying to sync with multiple different services at once.
We'll never know. We'll never know, and we'll not change anything. But it actually turned out, as you'll find out quite quickly, that maybe this was manna from heaven. This
Yeah,
was
absolutely.
an intervention from the Almighty. Because what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about a little app called TEA, which is subtitled Dating Safety for Women. Now, we recorded this episode when the app had suddenly gone viral, even though it first launched in 2023 and became the most downloaded app on the US App Store. But not long after we recorded and failed to record that episode, it was the subject of a massive hack attack. So if the episode had gone live, it actually would have been immediately irrelevant. So as I said, manna from heaven, intervention from the Most High. Yeah.
That is Apple probably and Google, I assume.
And whatever. But before we get to the subject of today's episode, a bit of housekeeping, something else you love to hear at the top of an episode. Two things in a row. One, that we failed, that we had a computer failure, and two, that we have some admin and housekeeping. But it's not the last episode you'll hear Raf, but Raf is about to go to Europe for 4 weeks, for a month. He'll be gone. He's going to Croatia to investigate the coastline.
Yeah, I'm going to circumnavigate Croatia with a piece of paper and a pencil.
And we're going to find out about this coastline paradox and whether there's anything to it. But as a result,
surely that country doesn't look like that.
it can't look like that on the ground. It cannot look like that on the ground. So as a result, the next 4 weeks will be a bit touch and go. You will be getting down round, and you probably will be getting a bit of RAF periodically. But who knows how reliable the internet is over there. It's probably faster than it is in Australia, to be honest, but who knows? They could be living in the 1990s for all I know. So we may get some extra guests, some guest hosts coming on. We'll keep the flame. You'll get your money's worth if you're a paying customer. And if
You might also hear me in the future because we have one in the can. I'm going to be honest here.
Yeah, we'll have two, right? We might have two in the can. See how we go. But all I'm saying is forgive us for any unreliability over the next 4 weeks. Cool.
All right. Let's actually talk about what people signed up to hear, not just us blathering on.
Blathering on about God knows what. Tea.
Yes, tea. Let's talk about tea.
So, as we said at the top, before we get into the news story of today, this is a app that went viral on the App Store over the past couple of weeks. Not available in Australia. So before you Australians attempt to jump on and find it, it's only available in the US. But it became the most downloaded app on the App Store. It topped all the charts in the US, seemingly out of nowhere. It went viral. And it is called, as I said, T, Safe Dating for Women. And what it basically is, it's essentially those Are We Dating the Same Guy Facebook groups, where women sort of exchange intel about the men they're dating, usually via dating apps, but not always, to find out whether they are, a red flag or a green flag. We're both green flags, so we actually don't know a whole lot about the red flag experience. So we apologize. If there are any red flag men listening, you're yelling at your podcast like, you don't get it. We don't get it, actually.
Yeah, you're dead right on that one.
So anyway, it went viral. So as we said, it's something that has been done in these Facebook groups for a very, very long time. But I'm going to go to the website right now, and we're going to run through what it does, and you'll see that it's a little bit more than that.
I will start right up the top, though, again. So after housekeeping and also saying that we've fucked up our last podcast recording, I'm going to say the third most thing and put a big caveat here. In that, very obviously, women's dating experience is different to men's. And I think that it's objective to say that it is more dangerous as a women dating men than it is for men dating women. So just putting that at the top, that's confirmed fact. That's down round proved fact. Just stating that.
We're accepting that as a ground truth before we start sounding off. Anyway, so if you head to the website, it is, and it lists all the things that this app does. I'll go through them and watch as they progressively get more intense. Find verified green flag men. Great. Run background checks. Identify potential catfish. Verify he's not a sex offender. Check for a criminal history. So you can immediately start saying why it's only available in the US, because this does tap into some state level databases and whatever that we just don't have in Australia, and many countries don't have. So as the description says, join a community of over 1.6 million women dedicated to empowering each other and get access to a suite of dating safety tools made just for the FBI girlies, and then a little spy emoji. Share experiences, seek advice in a secure, anonymous platform. Secure? Interesting. We're going to get to that in a minute. T is built on trust. Screenshots are blocked, and all members are verified as women.
Yeah, on that, apparently they use AI to determine that the user is a woman, because you have to upload a selfie. Again, we'll get to that.
Yeah, but there's mixed messages there, because they've also been posting on their Instagram that they're all hand verified, which seems untrue, because they've said they've had 2 million sign-ups and submissions over the past little while, as the app has obviously gone viral and whatever, and I find it very unlikely they're doing that by hand. Most likely, and it seems like, this is a pretty cowboy operation. But as I said, it is just like these Always Dating the Same Guy Facebook groups, which have operated for many, many years, just slapped with some nice Gen Z emoji primary colors branding, plus obviously this sort of connection with public databases or law enforcement databases and the rest of it, with the ultimate goal of, is the guy that I've met on Tinder or Hinge A, dating someone else, or B, some sort of violent criminal scumbag? Both wonderful questions. But also, and here's something we'll get into as well, I think, the third aspect is that, it does also indulge that fundamental human impulse to gossip and read about people's dirty laundry and enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's a social app. That's always going to be part of it.
It's a social app with, much like kind of Nextdoor or some of these other weird ones, that definitely fits into the snitch tech category.
Totally.
This is snitch tech, a term coined here on the Down Round podcast. This is absolutely snitch tech. Put it in the snitch tech bucket. And to be honest, from my perspective, again with the caveats in mind, it speaks to a society fallen, a completely broken and fallen society. So okay, let's start with the virality. As you said, this started with these Facebook groups, which I assume were localized, right? Or potentially universities or whatever.
They've got a Sydney version and a Melbourne version or whatever on Facebook.
And what you see come out of them is like screenshots that get shared on Reddit and other social medias and TikTok and whatever, being like, wow, can you believe it? Because of this Facebook group, all these girls worked out that they were all dating the same guy, some of them for like 9 months or whatever.
Yep.
And you see those viral one-offs. But my assumption is that like the rest of the time, people are just like posting dudes in there that mostly get no engagement or whatever. And like, but you know, regardless, okay, that's weird to start with, and that's kind of what the idea of this app was based on. But that kind of power law thing where, you know, 1 out of 10,000 gets a viral moment leads to everyone being like, well, I should be constantly doing this myself because I could be part of like one of these viral moments. I know that maybe their intention isn't to be part of a viral moment, but it's like it makes it feel much more common than it actually is. It's the same as, you know, right-wing media or whatever talking about every single friggin' robbery that happens, and so you feel like, you know, the world is unsafe, which it is. It's horrible.
Obviously, there is this sort of weird internet virality paranoia dynamic that goes with, again, I just had the caveat that obviously there are plenty of red flag dudes out here.
Yeah, yes, of course.
Making life miserable. But also the other dynamic is, and this is something that we talked about a lot on our Lost episode. You know, this could be some of the part of the Down Around mythology. Like, oh yeah, I heard the T episode before it got deleted, and you won't believe some of the shit Raph was saying.
I was going off.
I think the big takeaway is that, like, you know, these things emerge not just from online dating culture, which is obviously weird in world historical terms. We've never lived in a society with so much human matchmaking done through and communication done through online dating, but also just like. And all of these snitch tech tools, at least a lot of these sort of, I guess you could say, social surveillance tools that emerge, it comes from this realm where like we have scaled up human interaction to the level of billions. You know, you can communicate with anybody, anywhere, at any time, either intentionally or because an algorithm has thrown them in front of you. And as a result, that sort of like local trust layer is just obliterated. There's no local trust layer anymore. There's no way to verify people who they say they are. There's no like social proof. Where, you know, in the old days, you could be like a friend introduces you to another friend and you start dating, or you meet out at a bar and you go, do you know this guy? Speaking to someone in your friend group. Like that's just not possible anymore. So as a result,
totally. So you have to rebuild it artificially, and like the classic way. And this is kind of the naivety of Silicon Valley, right? Because it's like you can say the same thing for Airbnb. Like, how do you share a house with a random stranger? Well, it's simple. You just have like a 5-star system and a few reviews from other strangers, and now we've fixed the problem.
And
like
we've fixed the. And some payment rails with dispute mechanisms and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so we've rebuilt the edifices of human civilization that have been created over hundreds of thousands of years. We've very quickly pulled them all apart, but it's okay because we have this fantastic frictionless solution.
These systems. And, you know, they happen ad hoc, like obviously all these Facebook groups that have sprung up over many years. And then this is, and I'm surprised no one else had done it. And in fact, I didn't realize when we were talking about it in the Lost episode that this app has been around since 2023. I thought it was newer than that. But now that this news story is hit, it is confirmed it's been around since 2023. But I'm surprised that no one had done it earlier, which is essentially slapping an app view around these Facebook groups. And if you check out, it's kind of funny, if you check out their, I had to scroll through their Instagram, and their Instagram marketing, as I was looking at it, I was like, I can see why a bunch of this stuff went viral, because it's kind of, it's not a super slick campaign, but they do lots of like, you know, based on dating TikToks and reels, like that style, like women facing down the camera and talking about dating and like, you know, telling horror stories or whatever. But like one theme that kept coming back to was, they say it outright, you know, those "Are We Dating the Same Guy" men Facebook pages? I love those, but I don't use Facebook very often. So here's an app that does the same thing. And I was like, well, that's literally the pitch. Like these communities really only exist on Facebook in a big scaled way. And like Zoomers do not use Facebook. So that would have been the whiteboard pitch.
Oh, absolutely. But even in that, it's saying that what this is for, it's a gossip and / entertainment platform for most people. I love those groups. It's not like I love them because I really appreciate the utility of and value that it provides me on a constant basis. It's the entertainment. Yeah, and as you say, like
everything has a, you know, even when it's pitched as kind of like a safety and security app, which it obviously does have that function, including law enforcement mechanisms. But it's a social app with engagement. Like you want to do it because it's fun to gossip.
Yeah,
And the fellas do that on r/Wall Street Bets. That's their way of getting their
once again, we're
social
just
fulfillment.
rebuilding the campfire in this case. Again, we've created like this complete atomization, and like everything becomes like absolutely transactional, including dating, where it's a series of kind of weird transactions on apps, including literally financial transactions to the app makers, whose intention is for you to make those financial transactions. Complete atomization, break down all of the social structures, because obviously in the past, how do you fucking verify that someone's not a probo or a sexual assault maniac or has a criminal record, I suppose, is obviously you just like them vicariously through friends of friends. Like that's how people typically met. And so you use those elements of society to create those trust layers, as you said. So instead, because like we've completely thrown it to the apps, we have to pay yet another app to run. But also like, it fundamentally breaks down trust. As I said, back in the day, despite having all those like that society, there was more crime, and maybe because of it. Now there's less, and yet we're in a situation where like when you start dating someone, you have to like run them through a friggin' criminal record check and like use these kind of like lookup tools to find their history and whatnot. Like if that is not just like the kind of, is that not pure capitalism? Capitalism.
Yeah, you try to do that, guys. Well, yeah. No, it is, yeah. And you, as you say, like a lot of these, as we coined it, snitch tech apps. Like, what's the big one? The again,
the rideshare one.
No, well, there's the rideshare one is funny. Black Wolf. I mean, that's a different thing altogether. Where it's just like, imagine what if your Uber driver had a gun? It's literally the pitch. That is the whole pitch. And actually, if you haven't, you've almost certainly been served these weird Black Wolf ads or like promo stuff on TikTok or Instagram Reels. It's always like some big dude in like a slick suit being like, "I'm your Black Wolf driver, ex Special Forces," and it's like, "I'm going to get you from point A to point B, and no one's going to mess with you." And it's like, really? I mean, like,
how often are people messing with you?
like America is a far more violent place than Australia. So again, we are babes in the woods here. But but it's not like Joburg. Like you're not being carjacked at like a red light, generally. And even if you are, it's a really expensive service, way more expensive than an Uber. So the areas that you probably patronize are not somewhere where you're going to be in a huge risk of danger. Anyway, but again, that's that paranoia thing. I was thinking of like that Citizen, like the app where you just record crimes and infractions in your area, and you get like the map of your city with just like a pinpoint everywhere something violent is happening.
You get like a push notification if 7 kilometers away from you, like the police have been called to a DV or something.
Yeah.
So you just feel at all times that like you're surrounded by terror.
You're surrounded by terror and violence. I don't think this is quite the same thing because, as I said, even if the crime aspect is slightly less relevant, like, I get the desire, again, to establish that trust layer where it's like, I don't want to go on a date with a guy that's like a weird freak. Even if he's not like a criminal or like a violent person or whatever, I don't want to be stuck on a date with a guy who is strange and weird.
Which to be fair, obviously that like happens so regularly that an app like this has some traction outside of, I suppose, the entertainment layer. Although, what percentage is the entertainment layer? What percentage is but as I said, obviously there's a desire. You're taking the time and effort and energy to go out on yet another fucking date. That it would be nice to know beforehand if they're not a weird freak. As I said, another way to do that is just like have them recommended by someone you trust rather than going to an algorithm.
Matt, you got in trouble for this one. Go to a bar, see your mate DJ, strike up a conversation. No,
be normal. I know that doesn't exist anymore.
No, you can't be normal anymore. Being normal, I actually think that being normal died the moment that like Facebook opened up from just being for universities. Like the moment they made that available to the world, like it was no longer possible to be normal.
No. Normality, the last day of normality. We didn't realize it at the time. 2007, 2008, something like that.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
last normal year was 2006, folks. But I will also point out, you mentioned at the top, but like one of the features is reverse image search,
Yeah.
which I wonder if they're using like PimEyes or one of those
PimEyes or something like that. I don't know what
something like that. But point being, the way they frame it is identify potential catfish
Yeah.
over the reverse image, and I quite like that from a copy perspective because it's like our definitely most like weirdest feature. If you slap kind of the worst, not the worst crime, there are worse crimes obviously, but you know, a real like something the people are very paranoid about over the top of it, like catfishing, potential catfish, then it makes it seem not as crazy because it's like, well, the ends justify the means. We will reverse image search every person on the planet.
Oh yeah, totally. Because you're right. Like it's putting some fun branding over what is essentially like a global surveillance network, which whatever. Power to them. Anyway,
but yeah, importantly, the breaking news post our lost tapes.
Well, let part of the because obviously this
we should flag the response.
So the app went viral. As I said, it's been around since 2023 and it's been kicking around and people have been using it. Obviously, it managed to build up well over 1 million users. So it was, as far as apps go, that's pretty good. But it started going viral when it started appearing at the top of the charts. You saw lots of like screenshots on X and whatever of guys taking a screenshot of like T dating for women 1, ChatGPT 2, and being like, whoa? Like, what is
and
this?
we should say exactly like part of that virality. I think we've just talked about like snitch tech apps. This is like a new frontier, I would say, in snitch tech because the typical ones that we're talking about previously, like in that area, are all about being scared, and everything's kind of like black and white and very minimal and looks serious and like an FBI website or whatever. This is pastel purples, lime greens. Pastel-y yellows.
Yeah. It doesn't have that
of snitch tech.
Yeah, no, it's totally zoomified. Obviously, because the audience is trying to speak to is very different. But yeah, not like as you're right. Like Citizen and all these other ones have this Black Wolf, like quasi-military branding, like this idea that you are using something that is like backed by a network and expertise. It's like this, competency porn, as people like to call it, right? Like this
Whereas
idea
this is kind of like
this is fun. This is fun, non-threatening. It speaks in like the language of social media. As I said, scroll through their tons of emojis. Scroll through their 5 million Instagram reels, and you'll see a lot of, as I said, female dating content kind of vibes, dating content for women sort of vibes. Anyway, but obviously this kicked up a bit of a stink. There were intellectuals such as ourselves who said, doesn't this say a little bit about the inherent problems of trust in a scaled society? So, the sort of 100 IQ guys. But once you got down to the 90, 80, and heaven forbid 70 IQ.
And also some who claim to be 130, to be fair. It's kind of bell curve meme. Look, the incels freaked out, let's be frank. And I don't want to be affiliated with that.
No, I know. Well, yeah, there was like the men's rights incel. I mean, it sounds so quaint to say incel. It's not something people say anymore, but, they're still kicking around. These are people who were furious about it because they thought it was like a civilization-ending war on men.
War on men / birthrights.
For the simple crime of being a little bit strange on a date. And talking to them about World War II, which is actually my interest.
Look, the coastline paradox.
The coastline, exactly. I talked to them about the coastline paradox, which is a very serious issue. And then all of a sudden, my face is everywhere on this nasty little app.
We went to trivia together.
Look, I caused a bit of a scene.
Tore shreds off the trivia host.
Sorry, I raised an objection to how a certain question was marked. And then next thing I know... So anyway, they got really mad about it. 4chan, certain subreddits, all these sort of things. They were really kicking up a stink that this was, misandry, hostility to men on a civilizational scale, and just, what happened? I thought woke was dead, and now look at this, and that kind of vibe. So that has commensurately ended with today's news story. which is, and let me just read the story, the headline of the story from the Associated Press. T, an app for women to safely talk about men they date, has been breached. User IDs exposed. T said about 72,000 images were leaked online, including 13,000 images of selfies or selfies featuring a photo ID that users submitted during account verification. Another 59,000 images publicly viewable from posts, comments, direct messages, also accessed without authorization. No email addresses or phone numbers were accessed. But that is also like, when it comes to security breaches, that's like pretty bad.
Yes.
It looks like this is all like the ID stuff they've submitted to prove they're a woman that can use the app. And it leaked on 4chan, so it really does seem like this was a like culture war hack.
I mean, you say that, but I don't know if you've looked into the details of the hack. Whilst yes, it's still hacking. This was
a huge
like
dereliction.
It was publicly available. It was like a Firebase.
They left all these images. It seems like, based on what some of the cybersecurity people on X have been doing, that the developers of T does not seem like a supremely professional outfit. Left all this stuff completely exposed in basically like an Amazon bucket.
Yeah.
Just like sitting there for someone to more or less
just find. You could just
find the URL and like get into the directory. Which I get, especially when you like pitch yourself as being an app for women's safety and you have like,
well, it's a trust app, right? The whole app is about trust.
Literally, it's about trust. Like, and like they submitted their IDs as part of like a trust process, like specifically a trust process, and then you've just like gone, oh, thanks for that, and just like left it on a table for anyone to pick up a photo of your ID with all the information on it. I would say that's extremely
and
bad.
Metadata as well, unfortunately, as well. Like all of the images they didn't scrub any of the metadata from, so it has all of the location data from like where the images were taken. So of course, psychos have already created maps of all of the women who'd uploaded photos.
No, it's horrific. It's extremely bad. Like seriously.
Bad.
And they've not made any public comments, except if you go to their Instagram is like at the Tea Party Girls. Again, this is sort of clever marketing. You don't. Like the sort of people who use this app don't want to see like a really banal like app page with like screenshots. They want to feel like these are some girls who are making this app and are like on the same team and we're all doing in this together. They haven't made a post about it, but they're replying to every comment from people being like, so what's going on with this 4chan data breach? And let me read this masterclass in public communication. Hey, purple heart. Teapot emoji. Very good. We always want this space to feel safe, honest, and supportive. So here's what we need you to know. First off, please know that if you signed up for T after February 2024, all your data is secure. Recently discovered unauthorized access to an old archive system that stored about 72,000 user-submitted images, including 13,000 images of selfies, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. We've acted fast. Our team and trusted security experts worked around the clock. At this time, we have no evidence that any current or additional data was accessed. Now, I don't know if that's actually true, because some people are suggesting, at least on social media, that they signed up for the app more recently and they are in the leak or the dump. Who knows? I think it still needs some time to shake out and see if that's true. But even if so, that is quite bad.
T Girlies, you're saying their Instagram, their handle is.
Yeah.
The Tea Party Girls is who that message is coming from.
Yep.
Very interesting. Founder's name, Sean Cook. Sean Cook seems to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
I've sent you a link in the chat there to the tforwomen.com/about page.
Oh, yeah.
Founder Sean Cook launched T after witnessing his mother's terrifying experience with online dating. Not only being catfished, but Sean is a man.
Yeah, he's a scary looking fellow, I must say. Red flag. It's a big bomb drop. And then they have, so on their about page, they have Sean Cook founder, big grinning mug, looks like a private equity guy.
Yeah.
I would say. If you saw him, you would think this man works in private equity. And then Daniela Statela, who is their social media director and seems far more brand aligned with the kind of person they're trying to speak to.
Yeah, so firstly, obviously, like, this is what's annoying here. Once again, we exist in the sensible center. Like, this is a shonky operation
Clearly.
insofar as like, and they've obviously scaled very quickly at least in the last little while.
I mean, that's also part of it, I think. And just as a general rule, I think speaks to, when you have a viral app, especially like a viral social app, even if it's not something that's kind of hot button and controversial, you are going to very quickly have to figure out like some fairly elite level cybersecurity mitigations, because like, even if you're not dealing with personal data, maybe you're working with payments and scams and purchases and whatever. So scaling up quickly to the point where, as you said, they're claiming, or as I said, they're claiming to have 2 million applications sort of sitting in their inbox. You're going to run into issues regardless of what kind of app you're running.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it is annoying that it's like, this is obviously now immediately been weaponized by the worst people on the internet who are now like classic kind of, as I said, putting the women who signed up to these apps, metadata pictures with like whereabouts in America, like on a map. Like this kind of crazy shit.
Really, the worst case scenario for when you, a consumer, sign up to something called an app called T Safe Dating for Women.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden your picture,
and
is put on a map.
Details,
and
license number,
details.
State. Data,
someone found
everything.
like someone whose license is like to the Department of Defense. It's like, oh Jesus Christ. Anyway,
okay, surely the Pentagon had better systems in place for auditing your red flag dates than T for Women.
Right.
Just get on. What are the thing that Edward Snowden exposed? What was it like? They get on that system. Do a bit of a search. You'll find out way more, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, this whole thing is just so depressing and so bad. Like we've ruined dating and interpersonal connections and community as we know it, and then we rebuild it by using snitch tech now with friggin' pastel colors that then gets attacked by the worst online forums in the world. Literally, no one, did any person out of these millions of people we're talking about who've like engaged and interacted with this, do they ever like have any kind of mediated or any kind of interaction with humans that isn't mediated through some form of app?
Yeah,
and with like 9 million middleware kind of rent seekers taking a chip out of it.
Yeah, clipping incrementally smaller parts of like human interaction. And introducing more and more layers. Although there was kind of like a funny, the first wave of response before obviously the hack and like the violent, weird, strange stuff was guys being like, oh, if an app like this existed for blokes, it would be on the national news. People would go to jail for that. And it's like, that app wouldn't work. Like that app, there's no market for that app. There's no app for like guys who swipe a whole bunch on Tinder, get matches and be like, I want to make that pool smaller.
Exactly.
You fundamentally misunderstood the dynamics of this ecosystem. These are the guys that build like those little swipey mechanical hands to automatically swipe right on Tinder and Hinge.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I've got a match. Let's do something psycho to see if I can remove that match. Let's remove her from my pool.
I need to eliminate. No, I'm actually going to send, hi. What's up? How's your Saturday? That's what I'm going to do. So yeah, sorry fellas, but if that's your app idea, just picture me as like a Sequoia Venture Scout or whatever. I'm hitting the big red button. See you later. Yeah. Get out of my office.
Yeah, I mean the thing is like it's what is also annoying is like this increasing kind of creep of apps like this, and it isn't just this. Like insofar as ChatGPT kind of can half do a lot of this stuff already. And to be honest, look, I've said a million times, the killer app for AR is people's names floating over their heads. And I recognize that actually I'm referring to a little piece of snitch tech myself there. Yeah. So I can be won over. But my point is like, okay, whatever, there's 2 million people have signed up for this. Again, I know there's definitely that aspect of it just being like a kind of a gossip entertainment website. But people are kind of cool with the concept of like now, and it is because of like I understand why, but people are cool with the concept of like, oh yeah, we should be able to just look up people, reverse search them, work out where they work out who their past partners were, whatever it is. That's now just become like a baseline normality. And we talk about like privacy and whether privacy existed or didn't exist. But I guess I will say it's like this. A lot of people who are very unhappy with the idea of the government, for example, requiring ID to like download porn or whatever it is. Look at porn, I suppose. People probably don't download so much anymore, but I'm sure some people do. Don't want to know.
Sure, whatever.
But the point is, also okay with like a bunch of private companies allowing you to like look up all of this data about people, as long as it's not the government. It's fine. I don't know. But yes. But my point is, I guess the normalization is at a point where like, yeah, I looked you up on using ChatGPT's deep research. We did it, a few months ago, using all the different platforms, and you get so much information about someone, where they went to school, probably where they live. You can, reverse image search, obviously, so many different images. We've done that in the past with PimEyes as well.
One of my tests at the moment, as you get more agentic AI stuff, is to like put the list of all the names of people that are in one of my group chats. And like a lot of them are in media, journalists have relatively public profiles, so it's kind of easy mode for that sort of thing. And just be like, how do all these people know each other just from a list of names? And it's gotten progressively better, and OpenAI's O3 is quite good at it. And if you look at the reasoning, it's doing stuff like looking through their X account, checking out their LinkedIn, and like, obviously it goes, these people know each other from the Australian media. And then it kind of over-indexes and like tries to imagine where they, like exactly the circumstances in which these people met. And like, it's obviously it's kind of, but even so, it's sort of directionally right. It's like, oh, this person edited that person. I was like, yeah, that's true, actually. But like the point being is that I don't see that train slowing down, and there's going to be more of that stuff for people that don't have public profiles, especially when everything is indexed online.
Yeah, everything's indexed, scraped, and then also so many job applications or various applications require a LinkedIn profile now to be like put in there, because it's like for their own form of identity verification. Again, because like there's no real in-person stuff anymore. The demands we've talked about with real estate is obviously horrible, but like the demands from jobs, etc., basically require you to have some form of public profile to prove who you are, which then in turn can be used, well, by anyone, of course, as soon as something's public. So it's like and this is the difference. Like we've talked about, like, okay, privacy is like a relatively modern context. This is one of your things. So I read this on The Terminal. That it's like 120-year-old concept or whatever, this notion of like privacy, but the difference is the scale. Once again, it's like we didn't really believe in this fundamental right to privacy. That's because we didn't really have a need for it, right? Like it was kind of the birth of like huge cities with and travel, like travel being so cheap. This is my own assumption. I can't actually remember what you wrote in The Terminal, but I assumed that like one contributing factor was like the fact that people could move so much faster meant that all of a sudden you didn't know as many people. Like you weren't familiar with the people around you, and therefore you wanted privacy.
It's like a trust layer thing. Plus the fact that like for most of modern history, or most of history rather, your community was the people who lived within a kilometre radius of you, and who you interacted with professionally, or like for many people didn't have jobs that you would even describe as professional. Plus the fact that it's like people lived in like one room houses where there wasn't even privacy within a family, except for the very, very wealthy or whatever. And your interaction with the government was, the tax collector coming through, or a bunch of like guys in plate armor on horses coming into your town to kill you. It was only when like the complexity of modern life achieved a certain threshold, finance became a little bit more detached from your immediate concerns, that like the need for privacy started to like ramp up.
Yeah, exactly. But then now, and again, so that was kind of about like, I guess, scaling metropolis.
Scaling interactions.
Scaling interactions. Like it was through technology enabled it, right? Through transportation, through building, et cetera, et cetera. And now we're just ramping it up to literally a global scale. Like privacy started when you had cities with 1 million people in them.
Yeah.
And like we're now at the point where you're the global village.
You're in the global village.
You're in the global village. And so, but like, ironically, the privacy is kind of, you almost have to then remove that privacy layer in order to actually have trust in this global village where you have absolutely no social bonds or like social norms and regularities and connections that can actually put that trust layer on for you.
Yeah.
So we use fucking apps instead.
Yeah, we use additional services that come that, you know, in this case, it's not, you know, it's not just a trust layer. It's a community of its own with its own weird priorities and own interests. As I said, there's like the entertainment value of like seeing people's dirty laundry aired, plus the functional part of like finding out whether this guy you're on a date with is a piece of shit or not. And, you know, directionally, we're going further and further into this realm, you know, as we've talked about a million times on Down Around, this idea that Facebook is no longer interested. There are no apps that are interested in like connecting you with people that you actually know. Those are gone. And it seems like there's actually, as much as people say that they would love them, the market for them seems small. I mean, look at Be Real, which was the last thing I remember that was really lent on closely, like knowing what your friends are doing.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, everything else is about like destroying the barrier between people that you know and people who are influencers and people who are like a bit of both. And you're just like thrusting shit from random sources into your spatial recognition field.
So I want to know in the app, and maybe we're going to need an American who's an American woman who signed up to the app to let us know. But one of the things
who is willing to submit their ID into what could be a completely unencrypted Amazon data box.
Like basically like a public Google Drive. You know, like if you're willing to just kind of chuck your ID in there.
If you're cool to do that, let us know.
Let us know, because I want to know what it means. Because the first thing it says is use T to find verified green flag men. What, like, who's...
I don't know what, yeah.
What, is there a list? Like, when it says, or am I supposed to just look up a man and it's already got, like, all of the background checks or whatever, and it's like, no. Or is it people who formerly dated be like, look, I dated him, he was awesome, but he dumped me, but he's a great guy. Like, what's the, how do you find a verified green flag man? Or is it just the algorithm just decides?
You listen to the Down Around podcast, mate.
I know, that's
you reach out.
Well, I think they're all, I mean, look, don't get me wrong, I get it. Most of the good men are taken.
Yep. Sorry, ladies. And I guess, I don't know, this also feeds into another long run Down Around theme where it's kind of like, is the ending, you know, the end zone of this is like AI companions and shit. Well, you don't. It's fully aligned to your wants and needs already. There's no, I mean, I'm not going to say there's no privacy risk because who knows what's gonna happen. But it's like, you know, it's safe. It's an interaction that doesn't need a million, you know, it's easy. And this comes into like the sycophancy thing and all the sending people bonkers talking to a robot that says you're great all the time. But, you know,
yeah, totally. Also... and which is ironic that, like, you know, obviously the pissed off man angle was this lowers the birth rates and this is bad. This is going to make women hate men. It's like probably from gentlemen who look at pornography, you know, hours on end a day and are happy to talk to an AI chatbot.
Yeah, and speak like, to like their weird, sexy AI grok.
Exactly. Like this has no impact on the birth rate. It's just like annoying, and it's just like speaks to like a broader social sickness. The other one speaks to a broader social sickness, but also has like a significant economic impact, which is the most important thing.
Exactly. We want that line to go up, folks.
The very last thing I mentioned about it is, and this is just a side note, a lot of people on Twitter being like, because it was probably a vibe coded app, and like a lot of people just being like, oh, it's definitely a shit vibe coded app. It's like, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think it's like, obviously,
it came out in 2023. Yeah, before anyone was doing that.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to you, but there are many applications and software and websites that are bad that were not vibe coded.
I know. It's just a weird side thing. I see it everywhere. In every single comment, everywhere it's like, it was vibe coded. It's like, it's so irrelevant.
unless the like vibe code, the definition is expanded to mean not just using AI to generate code, but also just being like la 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 la, just like being in Xcode and just tapping stuff in and Not
Yeah.
worrying about. So don't worry, get it live, get it live. Maybe that's also vibe coding now. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, presumably this was just some mistake at some point when they were trying to build it. Because nowadays, with identity verification like this, like there are third parties, and I know they did say that they think that this is older ones, right?
Yeah,
This is,
that they claim.
but we
this is
don't know yet. That's their claim.
Yeah.
I could kind of see it, although there's still a lot of signups before they move to, because there's heaps of these ID verification services. I'm sure everyone's used them when you have to take a photo, like take a photo of your passport, and it like runs some things. There's heaps of third parties that do this that would make way more sense to do that.
Like, why are they keeping them as well? There's no reason to keep them anywhere once you've verified their identity.
Totally.
And maybe this speaks a little bit to their argument that it is old stuff. Is that if they had 1.6 million women and yet they've only been managed to get 80,000 IDs or whatever, maybe it is like an early like experimental batch or whatever they forgot about and left.
Yeah, it obviously doesn't excuse it, and that's still like a heap.
No.
Like I would expect that.
Oh yeah.
Like but yeah, I can kind of see, again, that's nothing to do with vibe coding. It sounds like in the early days, they probably were doing it manually. I mean, or whatever. Yeah. Like in the early days, someone was probably looking through a friggin' basically the equivalent of a Dropbox and being like, is person real? Yes. Is person real? Until they, increased technology. And back then, they probably made it public to outsource it to a certain extent, like want to earn $86 an hour working from home and only work 3 days a week. Like they could have outsourced it to a handful of people to verify, and therefore they made this box public, being like, oh, no one will find it. And then in the meantime, something better has happened,
and it became a culture war issue. And once it is, those 4chan fellas are remarkably persistent, I think. When it comes to litigating their specific peccadillos.
And obviously does not at all excuse it. It's just like very poor craftsmanship on, like, in what I would consider to be a bit of an icky app. In particular, the fact that it's made by a private equity looking guy. That we should do a really quick background check on him.
Exactly.
I'm going to do a background check on him, and by that I mean Google his name with the word LinkedIn. LinkedIn. Right. You're better than this than I am. Sean Cook. I have to sign in. Oh, he's got some good background.
Salesforce Director of Product Management.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yes. Business Development Intern, United Healthcare. He was only
Director of Product Management for Qualified, which is building the pipeline cloud for Salesforce.
Okay, so he's even worse than private equity. He's a Salesforce consultant who decided he was going to solve women's dating. If that doesn't say something about the current state of the planet, I don't know what is. And there we go. If you want, the final epitaph for humanity, it is a bunch of incels on 4chan sitting there, going to war with a former head of Salesforce BizDev over the matter of women's dating.
There you have it, folks. We're on the up and up.
Good luck out there. Be safe out there, please.